Good afternoon and welcome to Winol Online. I'm Mariella Southern. Coming up today, sixth form staff go on strike, planning application delayed yet again at Bushfield Camp, and Winchester is crowned king of Christmas shopping. It was one of the most emotional and contentious issues debated in Parliament for years, and after a 5-hour debate, MPs in the House of Commons voted to pass the Assisted Dying Bill. Francesca Pritchard explains what this means for the UK and how it divided the views of our local MPs.
It could mark one of the most significant social changes in decades, comparable to the Abortion Act of 1967. In what was a free vote, Parliament voted by 330 to 275 in favour of the bill. The result was met with complete silence. Local MPs found themselves on different sides of the debate. Winchester's Dr Danny Chambers supported the bill, while the MP for Fareham and Waterlooville and former Home Secretary Suella Braverman voted against. MPs were allowed to vote based on their own personal views, not party instructions. However, the result showed a clear difference between Labour and Conservative views. 228 Labour members were in favour, whilst only 23 Tories backed the bill. The bill was first introduced by Labour MP Kim Leadbeater in October of last year. It states that those over the age of 18 who wish to end their lives must be expected to die within 6 months. They must also have approval from 2 doctors and a High Court judge. Then a patient would have to wait 14 days before self-administering medication. The outcome represents the first of many more steps into giving terminally ill people the right to choose to end their own life. Disabilities rights activist Liz Carr said the fight goes on to stop the bill. Locally, the Bishop of Winchester has spoken out against the bill, stating he is deeply concerned by the move to legalise assisted suicide. There are many more steps before this bill could become law. Follow Winchester News Online for further updates. Francesca Pritchard.
Pressure has been building on the government since it announced plans to increase teacher wages above inflation, but excluded a number of sixth forms from the increase. The government said it does not set or recommend pay levels for colleges, but it has given the increase to college academies. Jacob Rayner has been to a local sixth form to explain the situation.
Peter Simmons in Winchester is one of 32 sixth forms that have been taking part in teacher strikes across England over the past 2 weeks. This is due to a pay award which was promised to teachers but is set to miss certain sixth forms.
So the aim essentially is to try and get pay justice, pay parity for teachers here so that they're getting the same pay rise that all teachers in schools and sixth form colleges that have academised are getting, which has been promised by the government, 5.5% that's meant to be funded, but we're the only colleges around the country that aren't getting it.
Hundreds of members of the National Education Union marched on the Department of Education in Westminster. I contacted the DOE, but they refused to make a comment to a student journalist.
Labour was originally created by the trade unions, but it seems to be getting further and further from them every day, with these strikes mounting more pressure on the government after the farmers' strikes, which are still ongoing.
I think unions are important for all jobs and all employees across the country of any sector. I think it's important that the message is sent to employers that terms and conditions need to be fair, which they just aren't for sixth form colleges at the moment.
Teachers are here for their students. We're here to offer the best possible education. We really regret withdrawing our labour today. It's not what we want to do, but equally we want to secure the future of this high-performing college and in fact all high-performing colleges, sixth form colleges up and down the country.
As of today, there is still no agreement between the National Education Union and the government, so sixth formers should be prepared for more strikes to come over the winter months. Jacob Rayner, Winchester News Online.
Hampshire residents have been struggling to pay their energy bills as prices have increased by 1/3 more than they did before the energy crisis. Alexia Pittikas is here to tell us how a ceasefire in the Middle East could help lower some of these costs. So Alexia, how's what's going on around the world affecting us?
Well, we have suffered through oil price fluctuations over the past 2 years following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The market has also struggled due to the tensions in the Middle East after the conflict between Israel and Lebanon escalated. This created financial instability as, for example, East Hampshire residents are paying over a third more to fuel their homes, which is a direct effect of these conflicts.
But how does it affect us in Hampshire as the UK doesn't directly import energy from Lebanon and Israel?
While the UK does not directly import petrol from Lebanon, it relies on liquefied natural gas imports. Reduced tensions are going to lower risks for LNG shipments via critical routes such as the Suez Canal. Stabilized global prices indirectly benefit UK energy costs as they are influenced by international market dynamics, especially during the winter months when everyone in Winchester will be heating their homes more, so the demand for energy is at its peak. Hopefully, we'll see a reduction which will lower the financial burden for Hampshire residents and those struggling.
Thank you, Alexia. A decision of approval over the planning application for the currently unused Bushfield camp has been delayed yet again. The developers for the land were hoping that their proposals would have been approved by spring, but are now forced to wait until early 2025 for a final decision. Morgan Mitchener-Banks takes us through why this process is taking longer than expected.
For over 50 years, these beacons of history have been left untouched to be taken over by nature and wildlife. This barren brownfield site is home to the ruins of an old World War II army base, but since 2021 there have been discussions and proposals to rejuvenate this land into a business park. Complete with academic accommodation, a knowledge park and a sports and community hub, a planning application for this redevelopment was submitted in late 2023 and was expected to be determined by spring of this year. However, the determination of that application has been delayed multiple times due to National Highways pushing back giving their advisory comments to the council. The most recent case of this was on the 26th of November, where National Highways recommended not granting permission for the application for the 6th time and postponing giving their fully informed advice until the 17th of February next year at the latest. The main concern from National Highways that is causing this delay stems from the impact the development may have on traffic entering and exiting from the M3 from Junction 11, as the master plan outlines that the only road into the new development would be on Badger Farm Road. Ali Cochrane, a campaigner to save Bushfield Camp from this redevelopment, had previously expressed similar concerns when the application was first submitted.
The roads are already jam-packed. If anybody who knows Winchester knows that from 8:30, going up Badger Farm Road, going along St Cross Road, going in on Romsey Road, it is a standstill. That's going to affect not only our quality of life, but our quality of air.
Meanwhile, a spokesperson from National Highways has said, "We remain engaged with the applicant and Hampshire County Council to provide the information required by National Highways to enable us to provide fully informed advice to the local planning authority." So while the repeated postponements of these proposals may frustrate some, at least the wild inhabitants of this area will be left in peace for a little longer. Morgan Mitchener-Banks, Winchester News Online.
And now, a story right on our doorstep. The university was hit with an unexpected power outage last week, and our reporter Connor Johnson went to go see what turned the university's lights out.
The university suffered a mass power outage last week, with many students missing hospital appointments, assignment dates and lectures, with all the accommodations losing power for a matter of hours.
Winchester City is experiencing several power outages, one of which is impacting the King Alfred campus. We are aware that some students may have experienced an impact to their scheduled assessments. Please be assured that all students who are directly impacted will not be disadvantaged. But how do the people of Winchester react to having no power?
Chaos. That's the only word I really have, I'll be honest. It's cancelled our classes. It caused a lot of stress amongst the staff, especially in the PCB buildings.
I've got an appointment at 4:30 and I've had to pull in to a disabled way to make my appointment on time.
With many people concerned of what's going on here at the university, the repercussions will reach far further than just the campuses.
It's certainly not anything that's happened before when we've been on campus. I'm in my 3rd year and nothing akin to this has happened before, so I don't really think people know how to handle it very well.
For the time being, the university will have to be powered by generators dotted around campus whilst people get on with their day-to-day lives. Connor Johnson, Winchester News Online.
This summer, Labour won the general election with a historic landslide, but recently it appears that some people are losing faith. A petition has been circulating to call for another general election that seems rather popular. Isabel Jones spoke to Hampshire's locals to see where they stand.
Politics plastered over social media. A petition calling out for another general election following Labour's short 6 months in office. It claims that the party have gone back on the promises they had laid out in the previous election. Now, Parliament are due to debate the topic on the 6th of January 2025.
I think with the rise of the Reform Party being far right, I think if a general election was recalled, I think a lot of Tory supporters would go to Reform UK. Under the Tory government, we saw a lot of promises, especially towards the end, about the scrapping of the disability benefit system, reform of the NHS, like more restrictions on who can qualify for personal independence payments. So yeah, as a disabled person, I'd be absolutely terrified.
Petitions on the website will receive a government response after reaching 10,000 signatures. This petition has reached almost 3 million in just 10 days.
I feel like it's the right response. I think from what we've already seen from the Labour government, it's already not promising. Only 6 months in, and there being a petition for over 2.9 million Britons that want to have this government removed. And we've sort of seen this declining trend of businesses losing faith in the country, whereas we are working on our current plan for 2029 in its current state to come back and to not only win back the trust of the British public, but to show them that change is possible, and that change is possible under the Conservatives.
The petition, created by Michael Westwood, seemed to grab a lot of traction from social media apps, specifically TikTok, where creators such as Vote Reform UK have live streamed the rising number of signatures in an attempt to persuade people to sign. I've been Isabel Jones for Winchester News Online.
As a parent, you want the best for your child, and there's no denying the importance of education to ensure that they have the best chance in life. But what happens when a simple privilege like transport to school is threatened? Molly Keane spoke to a mother who's worried about the lack of funding for her child from Hampshire County Council.
Christine Wheatley, like any other mother, wants her child to get the best education that she can. Her daughter Ellie has an EHCP, an Education, Health and Care Plan, and as a result of this, has had paid taxi journeys to and from a special deaf school in Newbury, compensated by Hampshire County Council. But since moving on to sixth form, she no longer benefits from this financial aid.
It was a challenge that I wasn't expecting at this stage in her education. The council are asking for a parental contribution from me of £1,700, and that's based on the distance to travel. And I felt that actually that was a real tax really on having a disabled child.
The annual contribution requested from parents by Hampshire County Council has drastically increased over the past 9 years. If we take a look back to the academic year of 2015 to 2016, parents had to pay £525, regardless of how many miles. If we look back at 2019 to 2020, for a journey over 10 miles, parents would have to pay £1,330. But now, in the year of 2024 to 2025, parents are having to pay just under £1,800 for a journey over 10 miles. I asked Winchester MP Danny Chambers to see if he was able to help.
As an MP, I have no direct control over how Hampshire County Council spend their money and what they spend it on, but we can push for changes in what councils are required to do, and we do push for how councils are funded.
Winol also contacted Hampshire County Council for a comment, but have so far received no reply. Their website does, however, state that there is no automatic eligibility for Hampshire County Council funded home-to-school transport after the age of 16. Molly Keane, Winchester News Online.
Shoppers this Christmas season are set to spend an estimated £28 billion, but online criminals will be looking to take a chunk of that for themselves. New analysis from Experian reveals that fraud rates have been increasing in the holiday months year after year. So Maeve Corbett is here to take us through what to look out for and how to stay secure.
Click the link below. Call us urgently. Make sure to give us all your details.
Have you ever received a text or an email from an unknown address telling you to click a link because you've won the new iPhone?
scams are becoming more prevalent and harder to detect.
But I've just heard a programme on the radio which made it perfectly clear that they're not easy, and AI and voice reproduction is a big threat.
And you can never really tell if it's like real or not.
I think we have to deal with it with work quite a lot, spotting any kind of fraud emails and everything that come through.
Well, it was for me, but I know there's quite a few people that have fallen for it.
So, how are we meant to protect ourselves when shopping the latest deals or opening a text claiming to be a friend in need?
Assume guilt, assume everything is out to get you, unless proven otherwise. The obvious things are things like hovering over a URL to see if it looks like a domain you would expect. But I would think that the most easy thing to do is actually don't trust an email. If you get a message from someone like, say, Every or DHL, go to the Every or DHL website specifically, open up your browser and go to them directly. Don't trust the link in the email.
Many banks have also offered their advice and protection to customers. Santander stresses the importance of taking extra care to verify identities. Monzo has an in-app feature which lets you know if it's really them on the phone to you. Revolut has an option to use a disposable virtual card for payments to avoid your details being stolen. And HSBC reminds people to stop, challenge and protect. Maeve Corbett, Winchester News Online.
Have you or a loved one ever been a victim of a home invasion? Hampshire Police have launched a new campaign to educate residents on how to prevent this from happening to them. Eve Thompson finds out more.
Lights are on, but nobody's home. A saying that Hampshire Police want their residents taking quite literally this winter. As the nights start drawing in, unoccupied houses attract unwanted attention. Lights On is a campaign recently launched by Hampshire Police, advising homeowners on how best to keep their houses safe during the darker months.
There is strong evidence to suggest that physical security measures reduce crime by making residential properties more difficult to break into, and some measures may act as a deterrent. Measures include a range of devices and options used individually or in combination, such as double door locks, window locks, and external lights.
But do Winchester residents feel safe where they live? I carried out a survey among locals and the results varied. Though the majority said they felt very safe, 18.2% voted very unsafe, which could be related to the lack of security measures they had within their homes.
I actually think it's a really good idea because whenever you go out and you're not at home, I think a light makes it looks like somebody is home, and I think it's definitely a good deterrent.
Residents are reminded to lock all windows and doors, as well as buying timer switches and gadgets for when they're not home. Energy-saving bulbs will help keep the bills down too, whilst taking the necessary precautions. Energy bills are expensive as it is, however by following steps like these, residents can prevent more serious issues from occurring. Eve Thompson, Winchester News Online.
The harsh British winter brings many issues for people, heating their homes, driving in the dark, but there's one thing that many people suffer from that you might not have heard of. George Busby tells us more.
Harsh winds, colder weather and shorter days. The British winter can be a dark and gloomy place, with many people spending almost entire days in complete darkness. But for some people, it can affect them more than others. SAD, or seasonal affective disorder, is something that affects nearly 1 in 10 people in the UK. It is a type of depression that is altered by the weather, more commonly, bad weather.
So SAD it's essentially a form of depression that is heightened during usually the winter months, so starting around sort of the end of autumn into the sort of heart of winter really, and it's usually affected by the reduction in daylight hours. So our bodies are regulated by daylight, so which is why it's kind of exacerbated during the winter months, because some people are, we're waking up in the dark and going to work in the dark and coming home in the dark. So it's kind of about like sort of hijacking your body's system and getting outside as soon as you can really for some daylight.
I think if the light comes down in particular, spending more time in the dark, it tends to feel a little bit more muted maybe. It's harder to feel bright, at that time. So I'd say, yeah, it definitely affects it a little bit.
I think it's dark and, a bit more gloomy. I think a lot of people get more sad in winter for sure. Yeah.
If you feel as if you suffer with SAD or any other mental illness, then do not be afraid to reach out to the hotlines and websites shown on screen now. George Busby, Winchester News Online.
Is graffiti art or vandalism? This ongoing debate tackles the tricky question of whether we can call street art an art form, considering it is a criminal offence. Izzy Paul has an exclusive interview with Hampshire's own Hendog, the famous street artist who creates detailed stenciled paintings all across the county.
Is that the sound of an artist or a criminal? Graffiti art is the process of spray painting stencils and designs on public spaces. But how is this different from simply painting your name on a wall? An anonymous street artist called Hendog is a frequent visitor of Winchester, creating intricate and beautiful stories with his paintings, from tiny bears to coloured brick walls.
There are lots of Hendogs around the city centre, but would we consider this art or vandalism?
I think if it's making a kind of political statement that needs to be made potentially in an area where it means something and will make an improvement in a situation.
I think it really depends. I think things like this, I would definitely say more art, but when people write their names just really badly, I would say definitely graffiti. So it's kind of a mixture.
Graffiti is a criminal act done without permission. A lot of designs we automatically think of actually refer to the term tagging, which is when names and slogans are written and painted across buildings. But who's to say that isn't art?
In terms of art is subjective. You decide what art is. If you look at it and go, that's artistic, then it's art. If you don't, then I guess not. In terms of vandalism, it can't be art or vandalism. It's either art or not art. The only person that can decide whether it was vandalism is the owner of the wall.
Izzy Paul, Winchester News Online.
Emerging from the darkness, last Thursday the streets of Winchester were illuminated by the cathedral's lantern parade. I went down there to see what it was all about.
Festivities have begun at Winchester Cathedral, as many people gathered inside before the annual Christmas Lantern Parade, which showcased many traditional as well as some not so traditional Christmas designs.
This year's theme was Christmas creatures, and participants were encouraged to use recycling items that would usually get thrown away and instead turn them into something new and creative.
I moved to Winchester just before lockdown with Noodle, my sausage dog, and then I was diagnosed with MS, and it was really scary. But actually, Noodle and I used to go for walks around the cathedral grounds, and it used to just be so lovely and uplifting. And so we decided, I say we, me, Noodle and the other sausage dog Mouse, decided to make a lantern to celebrate the pretty lights around the cathedral. And I was going to try and get the reindeer to be sausage dogs, but I'm not that creative enough.
The parade made its way out the Great West Doors and did a loop around the High Street.
Oh, I think my favourite was the reindeer.
I've got to admit the space station and planets was pretty cool as well, because I used to work in the space industry, so it was amazing to see that.
Afterwards, participants gathered around to find out that the Dean of Winchester had chosen the Spirit of Christmas as her winner. I was lucky enough to speak to the creators.
How do you feel to have won?
Twice in a row. Great! We won twice in a row, we won last time too. But can they do it 3 times?
No, we shouldn't win it 3 times. Spirit of Christmas is to let other people, it's participating that matters.
You've got it all wrong.
Lanterns parading around the cathedral to rows of LEDs twinkling up and down the high street. If you live in Winchester, then you're used to the town's bright Christmas displays. But have you ever wondered why we do this and where it all started? Jade Edwards-Lowe has been finding out more.
Every December, as the nights grow longer and the air turns crisp, the streets of Winchester light up with the magic of Christmas. But it's not just the city centre getting into the festive spirit. Residents are also decking their homes with twinkling displays too.
To put them out in December, I think November's too early. I don't like to get too ahead of the season. My neighbours, I noticed they put out theirs up last week, and I'm thinking that's way too early.
Historically, Christmas in Winchester has been a time for the community to unite and celebrate. The introduction of Christmas lights in the mid-20th century transformed the city, making it into a popular destination for holiday festivities. Back in the 1950s, local businesses began by adding simple decorations, starting a tradition that only grew brighter by time. Iconic landmarks like the Guildhall are now decked out in vibrant lights, continuing to draw in tourists.
I travelled to Winchester from Gloucester to see the lights this Christmas. I think the displays here are different. They not only span across the high street, but people also go all out to decorate their houses. As an amateur photographer, there's plenty of opportunities for me to capture the charm of this city in this festive season.
The Christmas lights in Winchester continue to be the highlight of the holiday season, not only bringing joy to those who live here, but also attracting visitors from all over. And with the lights growing more elaborate each year, it's clear that this tradition will continue to light up Winchester for generations to come. Jade Edwards-Lowe, Winchester News Online.
Now we head over to our Winol Entertainment desk.
Thank you, Mariella, and welcome to your Winol Entertainment Roundup. I'm Isabel Jones.
And I'm Kieran Tibbett, and we'll be covering all things from festival lineups to a certain movie that's been quite the hit online.
But first, you might know him from Blankety Blank, Would I Lie to You? And currently, one of the celebrities quick stepping through Strictly Come Dancing. That's right, comedian Chris McCausland will be swapping the ballroom for the Theatre Royal in Winchester. His Yonks nationwide tour will be arriving early here next year.
What a treat.
Now, on the topic of Strictly, the show hit the musicals over the weekend in a high-stake quarter-final that had everything from a Six-inspired Argentine tango to a wickedly good Charleston.
It was JB and Lauren who soared to the top of the leaderboard on Saturday night with a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Viennese waltz, and inspired by Mary Poppins, of course. It was heartbreak for Montel and Johannes, who lost out to Tasha and Aliash in a dance-off, however, leaving the show ahead of an all-action semi-final next week.
From some wicked choreography to some cinema, which has been defying gravity. That's right, Green and Pink has hit the screen. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo has starred in the musical adaptation that has fans bawling.
People have been going crazy over this film, so we hit the streets to see what they think.
I am actually. I'm not really a big musical fan, but I'm just so fascinated by it that it's like I need to watch it at this point. I probably would want to, just for the experience, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm very excited though.
So Izzy, have you heard people have really been holding space with the lyrics of Defying Gravity?
They have?
That's enough, Cynthia. Our newsroom have also been finding out their musical rhythm.
So, Kieran, what artists have you had on repeat this year?
Ooh, Taylor Swift, the 1975, and it wouldn't have been a Brat summer without a bit of Charlie XCX either. What about you, Izzy?
Well, I got to be honest, Kieran, my year doesn't seem to be as upbeat as yours. I think the likes of Adele, Billie Eilish, maybe a bit of Phoebe Bridgers.
It's a little on the sad side.
Well, anyway, moving on Taylor Swiftly before we all start crying.
Let's look at what's been playing in the earphones of Winchester students this year.
Probably Elton John.
It'll be Wallows because I went to see them in concert this year.
Probably Dave.
Now, it is highly anticipated that Wrapped will drop sometime this week, but we just don't know when.
In the meantime, the dull weather must be giving you the summer blues, but we've just had many UK festivals drop their lineups over the past few weeks for 2025. This will surely have you dreaming of those sunnier times ahead.
Now, did you know that this morning we've had Hampshire's finest, the Victorious Festival, announce their lineup down in Portsmouth? Queens of the Stone Age, Vampire Weekend and the Kings of Leon will be hitting the South Sea coast towards the end of August in a rock and roll extravaganza.
Truck Festival just up the A34 in Oxfordshire have absolutely stacked their lineup with some serious indie rock talent. A UK exclusive performance from Nothing But Thieves, a Saturday night blockbuster from Kasabian, and a closing party from Cortinas will make it another weekend to remember on Hill Farm.
And we are also soon hoping to find out who will be lighting up the Reading and Leeds stage next year too. Kieran, what are your predictions?
Oh, I'd quite like to see Paramore and maybe Olivia Rodrigo as well.
Well, Kieran, I hope you've remembered your driving licence.
How could I forget? I only got it last week.
Well, moving on into the jungle, and Rebecca Vardy is now the I'm a Celeb columnist for The Sun.
Much of a surprise?
Well, of course. Colleen Rooney is in the jungle and the other celebs don't seem to be recalling their copyright laws.
What are you on about?
Gagatha Wisty, Dagatha Misty, Lagatha Bisty.
Oh, you mean I bet that law has fans going crazy.
Didn't you say that word in a news story last week?
Oh yeah, I'm sure most of you remember the word of the year contenders.
Wasn't it something like skibbity or brat, sigma, ick.
Well, that was some of the questionable slang added to the language this year. The word which came out on top as Word of the Year, as voted for by the public, was brain rot.
Well, I guess that is one word to sum up our entertainment roundup.
That's right. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for this week. Back to Mariella in the studio.
Thanks, guys. An exhibition in Southampton is celebrating its connection to one of England's most beloved novelists, Jane Austen. Taking place at God's House Tower, letters, novels and contemporary art showcases Austen's lasting impact. Alexandra Stapleton tells us more.
No part of my property could have been such a prize before, for in my writing box was all my worldly wealth.
Surrounded by a room rich with history, the God's House Tower in Southampton is holding an exhibition about Jane Austen. Part of the GHT programme includes a contemporary art commission called No Notion or Loving by Halves by Jocelyn McGregor, which dives into the novelist's novel Northanger Abbey.
We're completely overjoyed to have Jane Austen's writing desk on loan from the British Library. Here at God's House Tower, it's quite a new thing for us to have such an important piece of British history and such an important piece of sort of literary heritage on display. I've absolutely loved and really enjoyed exploring some more of the history behind. It's not just the desk itself. There's a really precious pair of glasses that have come with it from the British Library that we know would have been hers, and a gorgeous little embroidered case.
Yeah, so there are a few letters, and it as well tells the story about how the society evolved and how they lived, and about her writing, because at that time it wasn't normal for a woman to write. So the desk came as a gift for her 18th birthday from her father, so it looked was important for him to actually persuade her, persuasion, one of her titles to write, which I think is fantastic.
The exhibition focused on Jane Austen will be here until February next year. Will there be more exhibitions in Southampton on the novelist in the future? Alexandra Stapleton, Winchester News Online.
And finally, Winchester has been named as the best small city for Christmas shopping in the UK. Elliot McPhee can tell us all about it.
A survey from Which magazine found that Winchester was the best place to visit for Christmas shopping outside the major cities such as London, Liverpool, Birmingham and Manchester. Out of the 19 small cities in the survey, 18 of them scored low, but Winchester received an impressive visitor rating of 4 out of 5 stars. The survey found:
England's medieval capital might not have as many shops as London, but it's a much more pleasant place to wander around in the week before Christmas. You'll also have a better chance of quickly finding something special and different.
But what do people in the city make of the range of Christmas shopping?
So far, came on the train from Swanage, been in one shop and I've bought 2 things, so yeah, quite good so far. And you'll have to catch me in a couple of hours to tell me for me to answer that a bit more accurately.
Been here about 5 minutes, just parked, but so far it's a nice experience, nice shops, the aesthetic of the market is lovely, and it's nice to get some different shops, because where we live it's a bit run down, it's mostly vaping shops.
The survey also found that the best medium-sized city for Christmas shopping was Bath, whilst the best large city was Liverpool. So whilst Winchester may lack the size and scale of the UK's major cities, its charm and beauty continues to stand out above the rest. Elliot McVie, Winchester News Online.
That's it for this week. For all your latest news and sport, head to winol.co.uk. Goodbye.